a sudden, I found myself in love with the world, so there was only one thing that I could do, was ding-a-ding-dang, my dang-along-ling-long.
Semi-serious topic. So, who, since the start of mankind, and will continue till the end of mankind, we'll always have wars, right?
Conflict is inevitable.
Inevitable. For one reason or another, it could be religion, race, territory,
Straight up tribalism.
whatever it may be. They've been going on since the beginning of time. They'll continue until the end of time, right? Even if we were to all look exactly the same.
Neanderthal versus Cro-Mag.
Right, exactly. So my question today was, who, aside of the war in Syria, which is a civil war that we're mildly involved in, I wouldn't say mildly, but from our perspective, American perspective, mildly involved in. I mean, it's not like Iraq or we're fully engaged, right? Anyway, we're likely to go. We're going to go to war again with somebody, right? The question is who and when, and who would you think? And sometimes I think about that it's not exactly who you might think it would be. For example, North Korea would be like, if you watch the media enough right now, North Korea would be the top pick probably by people about who we would go to war with next.
I think they took them off the table at this point. I think they're just kind of like, off on the weight bar.
Iran.
Well, the media loves to feed the North
Right.
Korean thing, but
True.
the likelihood of it happening is actually pretty low for a variety of reasons, up into including North Korea doesn't really want a war with the U.S. They'd get stomped on, and they'd be gone in a day. So they can put out all this propaganda and threaten all they want. The fact is the Chinese don't want that war to occur. The South Korean, nobody wants that war to happen. Right, mostly because of the instability it would provide in the region. And the Chinese in particular don't want the flood of people coming over into China. and then you have the capability, meaning the North Koreans really just don't, regardless of what people hear, they just don't have the capability to come up against us. So I don't think I think it's distant to think that would be it. So I tried to think about who we go to war with. I mean, a lot of lessons learned, I think, from the last Iraq War about staying in it so long. Donald Rumsfeld at the time was very, what were the words he was using? Shock and awe. Shock and awe. That's what you're going to see, with no plan thereafter on how to handle the humanity component of it, the rebuild component of it.
Well, left a vacuum also in control and leadership, which,
significantly
became a significant problem down the road.
Which is why we're there for the better part of 15, 20 years. And you had a lot of people on the inside that were, not traitors, if you will, on the Iraqi side that were playing both ends, and a lot of politicking and people in and out. And you had Karzai in at the time in Afghanistan, which was sort of going on concurrently. That's not to say that we're not at war with anybody now, right? Because we still have activity out in Afghanistan on the Pakistani border. We still have activity in Syria, so on and so forth. But I'm talking about all-out war. It's gonna occur again. The question is when and with who. You think it's Iran?
Potentially.
Because
I feel like it's been brewing for a long time.
yeah. In modern times, since the 70s and during the Carter administration, the kidnapping of the soldiers, and then you had Reagan, the Iran contraband, and the whole thing, right?
Well, there was that. I mean, we had the hostages, and then Reagan got them out as soon as he came into office. But I still think we owe them a good punch in the face, especially after shipping them, $7.1 billion in cash via plane to try and.
That wasn't, but 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, it was. And then we, all of a sudden, I think with the latest administration, they're saying, well, you know what? We're pulling out of that whole deal, so screw you guys.
Yeah, so just to refresh the memory of the audience, that was about 3-4 years ago during the Obama administration where they paid off the Iranians in return for...
Was it like 7.1 or was it like 14 point something?
No, it was a very large sum of money.
Billions of dollars, pallets of cash on a C whatever transport plane, multiple transport planes. Where did that money go?
Some of it, I think, was actually on film. That transaction occurring, and or there were plenty of people that were talking about it. I can't remember. Maybe you could look this up. That transaction, Obama sends billions to Iran or something to that effect. It was in return for something, of course. I want to say it was with the releasing of prisoners. I think that what was against the policy is that we don't do that. Hypothetically, we don't pay for the release of prisoners.
No, we tend to not do that. But here was the thing. When they did make that agreement, they went around Congress. Congress did not approve that money to go over there.
I agree. The whole thing was under the covers. The whole thing was under the covers.
Talk about a sketchy pizza place. Where's all that money at? And where's it going now? It was being used to fund terrorism all across the globe. Anytime you see a terrorist act on the globe, I'll bet you money. I'll bet you a pallet load of money that's tied to that money that was given to Iran.
And you think that they give it to what? Say, for example, Hezbollah.
Hezbollah, the Muslim Brotherhood, ISIS, whatever was left of it.
The remnants of it at the time. Now, Hezbollah is still a fairly sizable force. I think that ISIS is sort of on its way down. Hezbollah is its own little army. I don't know if you recall this, but they had conflict with Israel probably, I'm in a time warp, probably about 8 or 9 years ago, where it was basically Hezbollah was in Syria, if I'm not mistaken, fighting against Israel. And for all intents and purposes, they ostensibly won that war.
Really?
Yeah.
I totally missed that.
Hezbollah did. Yep. It's not that the Israelis didn't have the capability. Certainly they did, but Hezbollah is more of a guerrilla warfare type organization.
Yeah, launch rockets across the border.
Yeah, hide in churches and schools and so on and so forth. And then there's the supposed ethical side where we don't bomb churches and children and so on and so forth. So it's difficult to fight against that.
It is.
It is. So, no, they were quite involved in that, and that's where a lot of the Iranian money was going to. They sort of use Hezbollah as a mechanism to have wars without actually getting involved in the wars, right?
Yeah, what was the one that, what's his name, Bin Laden ran? What was that called again?
Who?
The one Bin Laden ran. What was that one called again? I'm having a senior moment here.
No, it's okay, obviously.
Al-Qaeda.
Al-Qaeda.
And there's still Al-Qaeda around now.
Well, I mean, ISIS was a fallout from Al-Qaeda. It was sort of Al-Qaeda. Yeah, I mean, they still exist as its own organization, but it's ostensibly fallen apart and become ISIS.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like they changed the sign outside the corporate headquarters.
Yeah, because the rest of all they got is that one guy. I can't remember his name. It was the number two guy in line. Besides Bin Laden.
Yeah, you don't see those guys popping their heads up too much anymore.
No, he's just yakking on a video every now and then. Yeah, it pops up just to let you know he's still around and says something. But he was actually in prison for quite some time. That number two guy, I forgot his name.
Was he in Gitmo when we let him go?
No, he was never in Gitmo. This is well before. This is back in the 80s that he was in prison. And when we let him go, and plenty of guys were in Gitmo that came out and they found them back on the field.
Oh, yeah. They were. I think it was like a 78% recidivism rate.
Yeah, no, it was very high. It was very high, but there was a lot of pressure because Obama said he was going to shut down Gitmo, and he didn't.
Couldn't do it.
Well, you can't do it because you can't. Well, I mean, you can, but you shouldn't. Right? I mean, just you're right. These guys were just being reinstituted back into the field.
They released tons of these guys during the end of that administration.
Yeah,
too.
then they would just find them again back out on the field, catch them twice. Or
Did they put radioisotopes in them so we could track them with satellites?
I don't understand why we don't do that. I mean, maybe we do.
I bet you we did.
Look, all you got to do is shake. I'm surprised. Do you know Kim Jong-un, when he came here a couple months ago, he actually brought his own bathroom with him.
His own bathroom.
Yeah.
Little porta potty on a dolly.
The whole thing, because they don't want him even, they don't want, what do they call them, sewer rats, looking into what he's eating and getting his DNA
Really?
out of his poo-pah, you know. Yeah.
Sounds like a phobia to me. Waiting for that python to come up from the toilet on him.
20 to 1, he's right, though. 20 to 1, he's right, because we know virtually nothing about him. Saying where that guy goes to the bathroom, you know, they'd be picking it off, you know, trying to figure out what's he eating.
I guess I never thought of that job, and you know what? I would never want to be assigned that job.
He doesn't carry it just in the U.S. He goes anywhere he goes, even to China.
Hey, Jenkins, we got a job for you. Here's some rubber gloves and some tongs
Here's
and a plastic bag.
Here's Kim Jong-un's poo-poo.
And I joined the FBI for this, or that would be the CIA probably.
Yeah.
That would be the Clowns International.
Guess he gets to change Kim Jong-un diaper. Kirk Jenkins. Wait, I went to school for technology. What am I doing? Yeah, I don't know.
It's kind of similar in some ways, you know. You're always cleaning up some kind of mess.
Somebody's crap. Yeah, it's the same thing, same job.
Just to get a better set of tongs from the CIA.
Yeah, exactly. I think Iran is a, you know, they're having an issue internally because the youth of Iran are not necessarily up with the old guard of Iran who still running that joint, if you will. And
I think we were trying to start another Arab Spring over there, and we actually sent some information saying, "Hey, we're with you guys if you want to toss these guys out."
Yeah, I think we do that, and I'm sure we still do it secretly with them because I think that Iran's time is limited. I mean, as is.
What do you mean? Limited as to the leadership?
Oh, absolutely. They won't prevail as they do today. The youth of that country is much more democratized, if you will. Don't misunderstand. They're very proud of their country. It's not like they're fans of the U.S. necessarily, right? But you know.
Well, they were very westernized back in the 50s and the 60s. I mean, they were hardcore westernized. They had suits. They had, you know.
Yeah, until they put the hammer down.
Yeah.
You know. So, I don't know. Iran's a possibility.
There's a lot of activity down in Africa right now, which we're seeing some of that in South Africa, but I'm talking about in the North African areas.
Yeah.
There's a lot of activity out there because I think the Chinese are very interested in the resources out there. So we could end up in a proxy war with China over, you know, resources, gold, uranium, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, we talked about that a few episodes ago. The resources in North Africa.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. Are pretty tight, and the Chinese are in there, but we play more of an ethical game with them. But if you look at, you know, some of the countries out there, I mean, I say war because when you go to war, say for example with Somalia, you're not really at war with them. It's just more of a guerrilla battle.
It's a police action. I think they used to refer to it back in the day.
Now, what was that one movie that was about that in particular?
Black Hawk Down.
Black Hawk Down.
That is an intense flick.
And well, a true story, of course, and that's how wars out in Somalia kind of go. Remember those just going off in the corner as usual? The Somali pirates those were hot for about 3 years.
Oh yeah, and then everybody decided to arm up their tankers and their boats, and now you see video every so often on Live Leak where these guys just tear their boats up. It's just like,
it's hilarious.
Don't even try, guys.
Yeah, so basically the private companies took it upon themselves to say, forget it. We're not waiting on, protection from NATO or anybody else. And they loaded up their big barges with massive machine guns. And if you even came close, they're warned, and you can get close to those. So you don't see nearly as many pirates. It was really hot for about 3 years there. 2-3 years.
Well, they were like sitting ducks. I mean, they didn't do anything. Yeah, they were just cruising through that strait and going, "Hey, let's hope that nobody tries to board us." Now, when you see some of these videos, they got razor wire around all the edges. They've got, security on all the entrance ramps and everything, and then they got these nests up inside the boat. There's no way you're going to come up on that thing.
That's what the Tom Hanks movie was about. What was that called? Where he actually
Captain
Kirk. No.
Beat me up, Scotty.
Yeah.
No.
Captain. No, you're thinking of the other one where he. Whatever. You know what I'm talking. So he puts himself out there. He's the captain. He puts himself out there to be sort of.
Captain Phillips.
Ding. There we go.
Well, I mean, he's been a captain in so many movies.
Right.
It's hard to remember. He saved the Somalians, and then he saved that airplane, and he saved himself on the Castaway. He did lose Wilson, though.
Oh, Wilson.
That's all right. You can get another one at Walmart.
You can't. Not the same. It's not the same. I felt bad for Wilson. Floating away like that. Silence. Moment of silence for Wilson.
There.
He's still out there. I wonder if there's actually an original Wilson, or if they just use a whole bunch of them.
Like a special movie package where you buy the DVD and it has a Wilson inside the box with
I'm
it.
saying that there's probably an original one.
Movie prop.
Yeah, movie prop.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay, so Iran is one. Potentially in North Africa. It could be anybody out there, though. Russia.
The Baltic states have been pretty calm lately after we kind of calmed that whole situation down.
What about the Russians?
The Russians, come on. They love Trump. They think he's the best thing since sliced bread.
Not
I say that
anytime soon.
Listen, I'm talking about like the next 10, 15 years. You have administration changes and so on and so forth. You remember they're building up their capabilities again. Everybody's big on the submarines right now.